Marcus Smart injured his left leg on this play, and based on this initial pop that you could actually see, a lot of people were understandably concerned about an Achilles injury. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. Let's just jump right into it here, guys. Marcus Smart tonight suffered a left leg injury, initially being called a left calf strain. But understandably, when people saw this pop that you can see, boom, right there in his calf, people were thinking that this was an Achilles rupture. Well, let's break down why that's not necessarily the case. So first thing here, in this position, of course, Smart is putting a tremendous amount of tension and load through this whole lower kinetic chain, through the calf muscle, down through that Achilles tendon, and into the foot. You can see here as he goes to put load and push off, actually the outline right kind of through here, down where the calf is transitioning into that Achilles tendon, and then you can actually kind of see the bulge here of his calf muscle. Now right here you can see already a little bit of kind of a bulge or a defect there, and then as he finally goes and pushes off, if you look really close, you can actually see that snap that occurs. Looking at it one more time here, pushes off, snap, right there in that muscle. But what I want you to pay attention to here is that snap is not coming from down lower in the Achilles tendon. If this had truly been an Achilles tendon rupture, that little snap that we see right there would have been from down at the Achilles tendon, with that energy being kind of translated up through the rest of the lower leg. But it's not. As we can see, it really was isolated into that portion of the calf muscle. Now, if we go to our anatomy here, what we're looking at corresponds to this area on the back of Smart's leg. Now we got to kind of flip our sides here, but basically with the gastrocnemius, we have a medial or an inner muscle head, and then an outer or a lateral. Specifically between the two, this medial, or the one that sits on the inside, is more vulnerable to being injured. And if we look here at Smart, of course, this is the inside portion of the leg. So this is his medial gastrocnemius, or medial calf muscle, that specifically sees that pop and sees that tear. But look again, if we look at the actual picture of Smart here, big muscle belly higher up, and then transitioning into this big, long, broad tendon, compared with our anatomy, muscle belly, and then the transition into this long tendon down into the Achilles. Now there's actually two plantar flexion muscles that kind of make up this whole calf complex. The first one, of course, on the outside being the gastrocnemius, the kind of main calf muscle we all think about. But then if we hide that, we actually have a deeper one called the soleus. The soleus is a flatter, more kind of broad muscle that sits right up against the tibia deeper inside the leg. The actual muscle portion extends a little bit further down the leg compared to where the calf transition is. The important thing to know the difference with these two muscles is that you have to look at where they originate and where they insert. So in the case of the gastrocnemius here on the back, it actually originates up on the femur, crossing the knee joint, and then it comes down and inserts with the Achilles tendon, crossing the ankle joint. So we call it a biarticulate or two joint muscle. Any sort of biarticulate muscle, including the hamstrings, is going to be more susceptible to strains because it has more tension from spanning across two joints. So when the knee is extended or straight here, it's going to be under more tension compared to when the knee is flexed, it's going to be more loose. Because if you imagine taking the femur here and just swinging it down, that's going to cause this origin of the gastrocnemius to come down lower, giving it more slack. So here in the case of Smart, as he's going back to push, right here in this position, his knee is an extension, and so you're ultimately stretching that gastrocnemius. It's originating up above the knee here on the femur, crossing the knee to then join up to the Achilles tendon. Now, the other thing is this injury looks like it occurs in an area called the myotendinous junction, which is typically a weaker spot in this whole muscle tendon complex, where you transition from the muscle fibers into the more kind of rigid, more kind of robust tendon. This is where the injuries would typically occur in this whole complex. And so it's more common to see muscle strains, injuries at this myotendinous junction, than to see the tendon itself kind of be the weak point and give out in this whole sequence. Now, this is certainly a mechanism, though, where you could have an Achilles rupture. And so in this case, it really comes down to where the weak point is in that whole chain. The weak point should not be the tendon. The weak point should be somewhere in the muscle if anything is going to get injured. The fact that we can see that much movement in the muscle implies to me that there's been a bigger tear. Now, these things typically are not going to be season-ending types of things, but they can be sort of these lingering problems that take a while to ultimately heal. So we'll see what the MRI shows for Smart, and hopefully there's nothing unexpected. We'll get a better idea of the severity of the calf strain and then more of an estimate of his ultimate timeout. But that's it for the video, everybody. I hope this was interesting to kind of look at, just because we see a snap or a pop in the back of the leg doesn't mean it's an Achilles rupture. There's other things that can be injured back here, and in this case for Smart, certainly looks like the initial report makes sense of a calf strain. Thank you as always for watching. Let me know any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.